Hey coin lovers, welcome back to Coins Numismatic Series. Today we're diving deep into 3 Roosevelt dimes from a pivotal era in American coinage, the late 1960s and early 1970s, a time when the United States Mint was adapting to rising silver prices and dramatic changes in coin production. These 3 dimes may appear simple, but collectors know that their stories, their striking details, and their rare high-grade survivors can make them some of the most intriguing pieces in the entire series. Let's take a closer look at 3 Roosevelt dimes that continue to capture the attention of coin hunters and collectors around the world. 1967 Roosevelt 1 dime coin. The year 1967 sits right in the middle of one of the most dramatic transitions in the history of United States coinage. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. government made the major decision to remove silver from circulating dimes and quarters. For decades, American dimes had been struck from an alloy of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, by the early 1960s, rising silver prices and increasing demand for coins had created a national coin shortage. People were hoarding silver coins, melting them for their metal value, and removing them from circulation. In response to this crisis, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965. This legislation permanently changed the composition of the dime, replacing the traditional silver alloy with a clad structure consisting of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The new composition allowed the mint to produce coins more cheaply and in much greater numbers, helping to stabilize the nation's coin supply. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was struck during the final year of another unusual policy that accompanied the coin shortage. From 1965 through 1967, the United States Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins. This meant that coins produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco looked identical, with no letter indicating where they were made. The goal was to discourage collectors from hoarding coins from specific mints, which the government believed might worsen the shortage. Because of this policy, every 1967 Roosevelt dime lacks a mint mark, regardless of where it was struck. For collectors today, this makes the coin a fascinating reminder of that unusual 3-year period in American minting history. The design of the 1967 dime follows the classic Roosevelt portrait created by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek. On the obverse, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt faces left, his profile strong and composed. Above his head runs the word Liberty, one of the most enduring symbols in American coinage. Beneath the chin is the national motto, "In God We Trust," and the date 1967 appears just to the right of the portrait. Sinek's initials, JS, appear subtly at the base of Roosevelt's neck. Interestingly, when the Roosevelt dime first appeared in 1946, these initials sparked rumors during the early Cold War that they represented Joseph Stalin rather than the designer's name. The rumor was quickly dismissed, but it remains one of the more curious pieces of trivia associated with the series. The reverse of the 1967 dime carries the same design that has defined the series since its beginning. At the center stands a tall torch representing liberty and enlightenment. To the left of the torch is an olive branch symbolizing peace, while an oak branch on the right represents strength and independence. Surrounding these elements are the inscriptions United States of America and 1 dime, with the phrase E pluribus unum placed across the middle. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was produced in enormous numbers as the mint worked to eliminate the coin shortage. The total mintage reached approximately 2.24 billion coins, making it one of the most heavily produced dimes in American history. With such a massive mintage, most surviving examples are extremely common in circulated condition. Millions of Americans handled these coins daily throughout the late 1960s and 1970s, and many remain in circulation even today. However, rarity in modern coins often depends not on mintage but on condition. Because billions were struck and transported in large mint bags, many coins received nicks and scratches before ever entering circulation. Finding a 1967 dime that remains in flawless condition is much more difficult than the mintage might suggest. Collectors therefore focus on high-grade, uncirculated examples. Coins graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services are considered exceptional survivors. These coins retain strong mint luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks. Another important factor is the full bands designation. On the reverse torch are horizontal bands that wrap around its center. If these bands are fully separated and sharply defined, the coin may qualify for the full bands classification. Because many coins from this era show weak strikes in the bands area, examples with full separation are highly prized among Roosevelt dime specialists. A typical circulated 1967 dime is worth only face value, but high-grade examples can command significantly higher prices. Coins graded MS-67 with full bands have sold for hundreds of dollars, and exceptionally preserved examples have reached even higher auction results. Mint errors also contribute to the excitement surrounding the 1967 dime. Off-center strikes are among the most dramatic. These occur when the planchet is not perfectly aligned within the striking press, leaving part of the design missing along one edge. Clip planchets are another fascinating error type. These occur when the blank coin is improperly cut from the metal strip before striking, resulting in a curved section missing from the coin's rim. Collectors also search for double die varieties, where elements of the design appear slightly duplicated due to misalignment during die creation. Although subtle, these varieties can dramatically increase collector interest and value. Today, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime stands as an important artifact from a time when the United States Mint was adapting to a rapidly changing economic landscape. 1968, D. Roosevelt I Dime Coin. In 1968, the United States Mint made a significant change that ended the unusual 3-year period without mint marks. Beginning that year, mint marks returned to American coinage, once again allowing collectors to identify where each coin was produced. The 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime was struck at the Denver Mint, and the small letter D appears on the obverse just above the date. For collectors who had spent several years examining coins without mint marks, the return of this small detail was a welcome development. The design of the 1968 D dime remains identical to earlier Roosevelt dimes. Franklin Roosevelt's portrait appears on the obverse, accompanied by Liberty above and I in God We Trust below. The date 1968 sits to the right, with the Denver Mint mark just above it. On the reverse, the familiar torch design continues to symbolize liberty, peace, and strength. This reverse composition has remained unchanged for decades, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The composition of the coin also remained the copper-nickel-clad alloy introduced in 1965. This durable structure allowed the mint to continue producing coins at high speed while avoiding the cost of precious metals. The Denver Mint struck approximately 480 million 1968 D dimes. Although this number is far smaller than the massive 1967 mintage, it still represents a huge quantity of coins entering circulation. Most surviving examples show wear from decades of use. However, pristine examples remain surprisingly scarce, especially those with strong strikes and minimal marks. Collectors once again pay close attention to the full band's detail on the reverse torch. Coins with crisp band separation are far more difficult to find and command strong premiums in the collector market. A circulated 1968 D dime typically remains worth only its face value. However, coins graded MS-67 with full bands can sell for several $100s. Exceptional pieces with blazing luster and near-perfect surfaces have brought even higher prices at auction. Mint errors are another reason collectors study this coin carefully. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die cracks have all been discovered on 1968 D dimes. One especially interesting error type is the rotated die. In this situation, the reverse design is misaligned relative to the obverse, creating a noticeable twist when the coin is flipped. These unusual pieces provide insight into the mechanical processes of coin production and are highly sought after by collectors specializing in mint errors. The 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime also holds historical importance as the first-year mint marks returned after the coin shortage era. 1970 Roosevelt I Dime Coin. By 1970, the United States Mint had fully adjusted to the new clad coinage system introduced 5 years earlier. The economy continued to grow, vending machines had become increasingly common, and the demand for small denomination coins remained strong. The Roosevelt Dime continued to play a vital role in everyday commerce, and the coins struck in 1970 represent a mature phase of the modern clad era. The obverse design remained unchanged, featuring Roosevelt's portrait facing left, with Liberty above, In God We Trust below, and the date 1970 to the right. Dimes struck in Philadelphia during this period carried no mint mark, while those produced in Denver bore the letter D. The reverse continued to display the torch, olive branch, and oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime maintained the copper-nickel clad composition introduced in 1965. This durable structure allowed the coin to withstand years of circulation while remaining cost-effective to produce. The mintage of 1970 dimes was substantial, with hundreds of millions struck to meet the needs of commerce. Despite these large numbers, collectors remain interested in this coin because of the challenge of finding pristine examples. High-grade coins with exceptional luster and minimal contact marks are surprisingly difficult to locate. As with other Roosevelt dimes, the full bands designation plays a major role in determining value. Coins with sharply defined bands on the reverse torch are significantly rarer than standard strikes. A typical circulated 1970 dime remains worth 10 cents, but a top-quality example graded MS-67 or MS-68 with full bands can sell for several $100s or more. Mint errors once again add excitement to the hunt. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and double dies have all been reported on coins from this year. For collectors building a complete Roosevelt dime set, the 1970 issue represents the continuation of a design that had already become a permanent fixture in American coinage. Even though these coins were produced in enormous numbers, the search for perfect examples and rare mint errors keeps collectors examining every dime they encounter. And sometimes, within the smallest coin in your pocket, there may still be a piece of history waiting to be discovered. 1974 D. Roosevelt 1 dime coin. By the mid-1970s, the Roosevelt dime had firmly established itself as one of the most familiar coins in American life. Millions of Americans handled dimes daily in grocery stores, vending machines, parking meters, and bus fares. Yet behind that everyday usefulness, the Roosevelt Dime series continued to develop a quiet but fascinating story for collectors. One of the coins that captures this moment in the history of modern U.S. coinage is the 1974 D. Roosevelt Dime. Struck at the Denver Mint during a time of economic change, expanding coin production, and evolving collector interest. To understand the significance of the 1974 D-Dime, it helps to look back at the events shaping American coinage during the previous decade. In 1965, the United States had eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices and widespread coin hoarding. The new copper-nickel clad composition allowed the mint to produce coins at a lower cost and in much larger quantities. By the time the mid-1970s arrived, the clad coinage system had become the standard for American circulating coins. The 1974 D. Roosevelt Dime reflects this modern era of coin production. Like all Roosevelt dimes struck after 1965, it is made from a layered metal structure consisting of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition gives the coin its distinctive appearance when viewed from the edge, where a thin line of copper can be seen sandwiched between the silvery outer layers. The obverse of the 1974 D-Dime features the classic portrait of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, designed by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek. Roosevelt's profile faces left, capturing the determined expression of the president who guided the United States through the Great Depression and World War II. Above his head appears the word liberty, a reminder of the central ideal upon which the nation was founded. Just beneath Roosevelt's chin is the motto "In God We Trust," a phrase that became a standard feature on American coins during the 20th century. To the right of the portrait is the date 1974, and just above the date sits the mint mark D, identifying the coin as a product of the Denver Mint. Sinek's initials, JS, appear at the base of Roosevelt's neck. Although small, these initials have been part of the Roosevelt dime design since the coin's introduction in 1946. The reverse of the coin displays the iconic torch design that has remained unchanged throughout the Roosevelt Dime series. The central torch symbolizes liberty and enlightenment. To its left appears an olive branch representing peace, while an oak branch on the right symbolizes strength and independence. Encircling these elements are the inscriptions "United States of America" and "1 dime." The Latin motto "E pluribus unum" appears across the center of the design. The Denver Mint produced an impressive number of 1974 D-dimes. The mintage reached approximately 626 million coins, ensuring that the denomination would remain plentiful in circulation. Because of this large mintage, the 1974 D-dime is extremely common in worn condition. Many examples circulated heavily during the 1970s and 1980s, often showing significant wear, scratches, and dull surfaces after years of use. However, collectors know that rarity is often defined not by how many coins were made, but by how many survive in exceptional condition. Coins that escaped circulation and retained their original mint luster can be surprisingly scarce. Uncirculated examples are graded according to their condition, with higher grades indicating fewer imperfections. Coins graded MS-65 are considered gem quality, while those reaching MS-67 or higher are regarded as exceptional survivors. For the 1974 D. Roosevelt Dime, collectors place particular emphasis on the full bands designation. On the reverse torch are horizontal bands that wrap around the center of the torch. If these bands are sharply defined and fully separated, the coin may qualify for the full bands classification. This detail is significant because many Roosevelt dimes were struck with insufficient pressure to fully define the bands. As a result, coins displaying complete band separation are much rarer than standard examples. In circulated condition, the 1974 D-dime remains worth its face value of 10 cents. But in higher grades the value begins to climb. Uncirculated coins graded around MS-65 may sell for a few dollars, while coins graded MS-67 with full bands can reach prices of $100 or more depending on their eye appeal and scarcity. At the very highest levels of preservation, auction results have occasionally shown even stronger prices for pristine examples. Collectors also search carefully for mint errors on the 1974 D-dime. Although modern minting technology reduced the number of mistakes compared to earlier decades, errors still occurred during the high-speed production process. One of the most visually striking errors is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is misaligned during the striking process, causing part of the design to be missing along the edge while the remaining design shifts toward one side. Clipped planchets are another fascinating error. These occur when the metal blank is improperly punched from the sheet before striking, leaving a curved portion missing from the rim of the coin. Die cracks are also occasionally found on 1974 D-dimes. These appear as raised lines across the coin's surface and are caused by tiny fractures developing in the steel dies used to strike the coins. For collectors building a complete Roosevelt dime set, the 1974 D-coin represents an important part of the modern clad era. While not rare in circulated condition, the challenge of finding superb full bands examples keeps collectors searching through rolls and collections in hopes of discovering a hidden gem. 1975 Roosevelt 1 dime coin. Few coins in the modern Roosevelt dime series carry as much intrigue among collectors as the 1975 dime. At first glance, the 1975 Roosevelt dime may appear completely ordinary, another small copper-nickel coin produced for everyday transactions. Yet behind this seemingly simple piece of pocket change lies one of the most fascinating and valuable modern coin rarities ever created. The design of the 1975 Roosevelt dime follows the same familiar pattern used since 1946. On the obverse appears the portrait of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, facing left. The word Liberty stretches along the upper left side of the coin, while the motto "I in God We Trust" sits just below the portrait. The date 1975 appears to the right of Roosevelt's profile. Coins struck at the Denver Mint include the D Mint mark above the date, while those struck in Philadelphia carry no mint mark, which was standard practice for that facility during most of the 20th century. The reverse again features the Torch of Liberty flanked by the Olive Branch of Peace and the Oak Branch of Strength. Around the rim are the inscriptions United States of America and 1 dime, with E pluribus unum positioned across the center. Like other Roosevelt dimes of the era, the 1975 coin was struck using the copper-nickel clad composition introduced in 1965. The coin weighs approximately 2.27 grams and measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 585 million dimes in 1975, while the Denver Mint produced around 313 million. These large mintages ensured that the dime would remain abundant in circulation throughout the country. Most surviving examples show the typical were associated with decades of circulation. However, pristine uncirculated coins can still be found, particularly in original bank rolls or mint sets preserved by collectors. As with other Roosevelt dimes, collectors value coins with strong strikes and minimal contact marks. High-grade examples graded MS-67 or higher can command premiums in the collector market, especially if they display the coveted full bands detail on the reverse torch. Yet the real excitement surrounding the 1975 dime centers on one of the most famous mint errors in modern U.S. coinage history. During the production of proof coins at the San Francisco Mint, a small number of proof dimes were accidentally struck without the S mint mark. These coins are known today as the legendary 1975 No-S proof Roosevelt dimes. Proof coins are specially struck for collectors using polished dies and planchets, producing mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. They are normally produced in limited numbers and sold directly to collectors in proof sets. In 1975, however, at least 2 proof dimes were struck using dies that lacked the S mint mark. Because proof coins are carefully inspected, the mistake went unnoticed until collectors discovered the unusual coins after the proof sets had already been distributed. Today, the 1975 No-S proof Roosevelt dime is considered one of the rarest modern U.S. coins. Only a handful are known to exist, making it a legendary rarity in the numismatic world. When one of these coins appears at auction, it can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, examples have brought prices approaching $500,000 due to their extreme rarity and historical significance. While the standard 1975 circulation strike dime remains common and worth face value in worn condition, the possibility of discovering a rare proof error has given the date a special place in coin collecting history. Collectors carefully examine proof sets from 1975, hoping to find the elusive missing mint mark variety. Although the chances are extremely small, the discovery of even one additional example would become major news in the numismatic community. For everyday collectors, the 1975 Roosevelt dime also offers the familiar challenge of finding high-grade examples with full bands. Coins meeting these strict standards remain scarce and can command strong premiums among Roosevelt dime specialists. The story of the 1975 dime perfectly illustrates the excitement of coin collecting. Even a tiny 10-cent coin, produced in the hundreds of millions, can become the center of one of the most remarkable discoveries in modern numismatics. And that possibility keeps collectors searching through coin collections, proof sets, and pocket change, always hoping that the next small silver-colored coin they examine might turn out to be something truly extraordinary.